Hello and welcome to Wake and Jake. Myself, Jake Storielli, David Mendelson. Make sure you guys are following everything we do. I say that because we normally don't say that, but our partnership with Dan Patrick's show has been going pretty cool. We've gotten some new listeners and followers, so if you're one of them, thank you so much. And we like to talk sports and have some fun here, so what we're going to do, like we kind of normally do, I want to do a little baseball chatter. I think I'm going to do some player talk and look at some of the upcoming free agents a little bit and just how they're doing. A little bit of landscape of how they're looking this year. Three of the big ones, Alonso, Bregman, Gleyber Torres. I don't know if you'd label him as a big one, but I mean a guy that's been a multiple-time All-Star second baseman. Having tough starts, so I want to dive in. We'll see if there's anything there and maybe a couple other guys that, hey, if your team's having a bad time, these guys could either be on the trading block easily if they are struggling in a contract year and their team's out of it, or like this was kind of a dark talk I had with Yankees fan Joe's McFly the other day. You know, if if the Yankees look like the Yankees and they've got a chance this year, let's do it. If Gleyber Torres doesn't turn it around by like June or July, I don't know. You have an obligation to the team at that point that becomes very interesting. So, not going to deep dive into that part of it because Gleyber Torres will turn around, sure.
Yeah.
No doubt. Scary. But I want to look into that a little bit, see where some guys are at. And then, honestly, the NBA playoffs are in a beautiful spot, especially the Western Conference. So I want to talk about some of those games. The performance the Timberwolves put on has kind of like taken over basketball and the sports conversation for the past couple days because nobody's really seen anything like that, which is really cool. So, and then we'll see if we'll round off. I'm probably not going to hit you with hockey today. Rangers can't be beat. So,
never.
If you have a problem with that, go bleep yourself. Whoa. Let's talk a little baseball. And just I'll start out wide and we'll zoom in a little bit, that this upcoming free agent class is supposed to be a big one. Like we went from the shortstop class with Judge, a couple other guys mixed in there, to this year's class that was Ohtani, the headliner. Ohtani and Yamamoto were the biggest fish, and then the Boris thing, everything kind of got out of control. Was Boris in trouble, or were the free agents themselves that had interesting resumes and Snell, Chapman, Montgomery, what else am I missing?
JD Martinez.
JD snuck in the mix. That I don't know. It became a weird, funky free agency. I think it led to a little more trading, which we like. But it was segue into this year, which everyone kind of thought was going to be a bigger, better class all around. And the tricky part with free agency is so much of it is timing. And the closer we've gotten to the baseball world, like this is an anecdote. We went to Milwaukee when did we do the sausage race? 2022 or 2021?
2021.
2021. We went to Milwaukee. We did the sausage race. If you haven't seen that, pretty electric content. Jimmy did legitimately pull his hamstring mid-sausage race. But we hung out with Corbin Burns for a little bit, and it was cool. It was just like guys chatting, which, sometimes with the players, you don't know if they're going to look at us as like traditional media or do they want to talk to anyone in general. But pitchers, if it's not their pitching day and you're as good as Corbin Burns, you're kind of good. And he's a Cali boy, so him and Trevor Plouffe were yucking it up over that. But it was funny how quickly Trevor, being a former ball player, and Corbin Burns, Corbin Burns basically said, like, yeah, I'm 2.5 years from free agency. Like he was already eyeing it at the time that if these guys do it right, if Corbin Burns has a Corbin Burns-like season this year, he is about to go into $200 million ish. He's got a Cy Young. He's been consistent. Like that's
not old.
it. 30, right? 30?
Yeah.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, a guy that will be on this free agent list and will have a very different free agency, also has a Cy Young, also has pitched really well, but got hurt, Shane Bieber. So if you don't time things right in baseball, it can be absolutely crushing to these guys' kind of careers. And that's why the Blake Snell free agency frustrated me so much, because Snell won the Cy Young. Now he has some other question marks about his walks and his way he pitches and consistency, innings a little bit. And then was it Boris? Was it him? I don't know where the percentages lied, but it was kind of screwed up that a guy that won the Cy Young, his second hit free agency, and didn't have the mass appeal. And now he's been hurt and pitched bad when he was out there.
Won a second Cy Young in what was otherwise a pretty weak class. And
Yamamoto got $300 million. Age is an enormous factor, and pitching they can measure easier. But
and Corbin Burns will turn 30 right after this season. So
okay, I mean that sounds like seven years, $35 million. What's that come out to? I'm not a math guy. 7 times 4
for
would be
245.
Sure. I mean, that's kind of light.
That number don't sound wrong.
That's kind of light. So, go Corbin Burns, go, unless it's against the Yankees. But checking in on the free agent pitching class, or the free agent class in general, I'll actually start with the position guys, because I think the guy that's going to lead it off is Soto, Soto. Juan Soto is making $31 million this year. He is off to an electric start. I think he's one of 2 players in baseball who have a 1. OPS. He's actually under, as of today, 996. But he has 2 WAR already on the season. He has been electric for the Yankees. He's leading in on-base percentage. He's leading in total bases. He's leading in OPS plus, games played. Juan Soto has been everything advertised and more. And something that I was saying a lot before the season, because Yankee fans can be brutal. No defending that sometimes. April is Juan Soto's worst month. Through basically every season, Juan Soto by month, April, he had an 872 OPS in his career, 125 games. Like, not a small sample at this point. Every other month is in the 9s, or July is a 1. So, Juan Soto's off to a good start. Juan Soto's off to a great start. And if there was any month that I think would have been the hiccup for him, I do think it would have been April. So the fact he's out of the gate and running.
April, new league, new team, start of contract year. It was primed to be a bad Juan Soto month.
Ain't seen the effects of that at all. So that's pretty exciting for Juan Soto, who also is hitting free agency at an age a lot of guys don't hit free agency. We played around the office, what's Juan Soto's final number going to land at? Reminder, Ohtani's technically landed at $700 million, one of the oddest contracts we've ever seen. They pushed off a lot of money till after the fact. I don't think Juan Soto will do that. I mean, if any team wants to throw him $100 million over 10 years, in 10 years after he's done playing, they will gladly throw that in, because that becomes not real money to them, the deferred money. But Juan Soto, I think my guess I threw out there was 550 or 550 million or 500. Yeah, 550 million. I was going to say 500 million. Yeah. We're not in the front office.
The conversation seems like it'll start with a 5.
You'd like to think.
November 1st.
He'll be 26 years old, so if you want to do, Judge's contract rolls through, he's 41, right? His age 41 season. If Soto does it till his age 40, you're
15 years would be 40.
So, yeah. Play with your calculators at home. Juan Soto's about to get a ton of money. I do think it's going to end up being the Yankees. He is a Yankee. Marketable all-time. If the Yankees are the Yankees, you keep that guy around. Let's see what the Mets drive up the price. Let's see who else gets involved. But a reminder, Aaron Judge's free agency, who became the captain, acts like a Yankee, is a Yankee. The Padres offered him a ton of money. Aaron Judge went back to the Yankees and said, hey, get in the ballpark and I'm a Yankee. Things work themselves out. Judge's cologne signs are all over the subway now. How about that? Juan Soto, it'll be pretty good. A couple other names. Fun one, Teoscar Hernandez. He started to go for the Dodgers. He signed a 1 year, 23.5. He's a fun watch. He is leading baseball in strikeouts.
He did just hit his 10th homer as we're recording this.
Right, which, I mean, gets him near the lead. He has a 129 OPS plus coming into today. And by the way, watch the Dodgers. If your team has an off day, Monday night, the Yanks had an off day. I put on the Dodgers at 10 o'clock, and I wanted to compare it to a circus, but it's more beautiful than that. It's like seeing, I haven't seen Cirque du Soleil, but it feels like they brought in people from all over the world who are like the best at what they do. Like Teoscar Hernandez, nobody thinks of him as one of the best baseball players in the world. I think he has some of the fastest like wrist swings in the world. It's like here's this guy from the Dominican Republic. Here's Shohei from Japan. Mookie Betts can play every position on the field. Freddie Freeman might be the best hitter baseball's seen in a while. Max Muncy, a little thick.
Awesome.
Oh,
The Pirates have called up Paul Skenes.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a Paul Skenes breaking news pod now. I mean, good.
Excited to watch it.
Paul Skenes has been ready to pitch. The thing that I kept saying to the Pittsburgh Pirates was stay in the standings until you could call up Paul Skenes. Because when you bring in a guy like that, if he's the guy he's supposed to be, which I think he is, man. I mean, a lot of the young pitchers that get the real hype, at this point, they pan out at a pretty high rate.
You at least, like, you see it, and it's like, oh, that makes sense.
And, I mean, this is a different level of hype. Like, Paul Skenes is like Strasburg. Like, you know, I'm trying to think who else had crazy... I don't know. I guess I'd have to dig a little deeper. Strasburg was an unreal time. Skenes is close to that. He obviously has the velo. And I wonder if the Pirates... They said they were waiting for him to get built up. And everyone was like, I don't know how true that is. He was, I mean, his first couple minor league starts were like 3 innings, so maybe there was some truth to that. The Pirates have been skidding for a little while now. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They're 17-21 on the season after getting off to a hot start. So I wonder, and I think I've said this thought on here before, we always look at teams, and I think our conversation was like, should the Pirates even call up Skenes this year? Like, what's that going to do for them? I think the Pirates look at their team, and they're like, let's go. Like, not necessarily this is the year, but Brian Reynolds, they locked him up. Ke'Bryan Hayes, they locked him up. O'Neal Cruz, like, it's go time for him. Jack Sawinski, young, solid ball player. The pitching was the more of the concern for me, although the lineup is starting to look a little thin as the season has continued. And their pitching's actually been awesome. Jared Jones came to the office. Good guy. He's been shoving. Mitch Keller has blossomed into a good starting pitcher. Martin Perez. They have a top 10 starting pitching ERA in baseball. So, hey, calling that guy up is going to give them some life. I'd love to see their lineup get a little life as number 1 pick Henry Davis just got optioned to the minors. I was kind of hoping that guy was going to click for them as their 28th in OPS, a bottom 5 offense. So I don't know if Skenes is going to help with that a lot. I will say his first start will be appointment television, and that's something baseball struggles with. So I'm excited for that. Have they announced which day he gets the start?
I haven't done a Twitter deep dive trying to see. Roster resource hasn't fully updated. I was optimistic.
I'm seeing May 11th.
So that would be Saturday.
Okay. So, hey, if you're a baseball fan, I mean, this guy's kind of supposed to be next. So, Saturday against the Chicago Cubs, we get to see a guy who's supposed to be next. And the velo's supposed to be insane. So I don't know. I'm fading velo a little bit just because guys are getting hurt because of it. But interested to see. Interested to see what he looks like. Good for Pirates fans that you don't have to play that game anymore. And, hey, maybe it will jump the offense a little bit. Maybe juice is real. I like to think it is. But they're going to have to bring something on that side of the ball to help him out. Man, you know what used to be awesome? And this guy's fallen out so hard? Harvey days with the Mets.
Yeah, he was hyped.
Harvey days were awesome, dude. I remember Harvey Strasburg. I saw one of those games. The Mets were doing like $25 for a ticket, a T-shirt, and a hot dog. Times were good. So maybe Paul Skenes can even just fill the ballpark for them, and maybe they can make some moves in free agency that they couldn't if they didn't sell out those 11 Paul Skenes games. Go Pirates, go. Back to the free agency a little bit. A little breaking news for the people there. We love that. Where was I? The hitters. Soto, Teoscar Hernandez, sure. Like at this point, I don't know if Michael Conforto is going to break the bank in free agency with where his age has been at and consistency the past couple years. Positive OPS plus, rooting for you, Michael Conforto. I think the outfielder who's actually on this website not listed as an outfielder that needs to be talked about is Cody Bellinger. If you remember, Cody was part of the free agent class, and he had his questions about injury with performance tied to injury, I suppose. He got banged up a little bit this year, but he is back in hitting. It's a smaller sample size, 88 at-bats, but a 132 OPS plus, an 825 OPS, which that's in line with where he was last year, OPS plus-wise, hitting down across the board in baseball so far. But if you're a team that, if you're probably eyeing next year's plans because the Cubs seem to be in the mix and they're going to keep Cody Bellinger around. Cody Bellinger, the guys that accepted opt-out contracts, me and Jim went back and forth on talking baseball a little bit. For where they landed, obviously guaranteed money is better. And Jimmy was coming from the baseball side, which I fully agree with. Like, if you're a Chicago Cubs fan, the day Bellinger signed, you should go out and get a Belly jersey. I tweeted it out the other day. When and if Soto signs with the Yankees, I'm buying a Soto jersey. I'm all in on it. He's awesome. He's a sick puppy. He reminds me of like when people talk about legends, like the fact we get to see that guy play. I'm in. For Cubs fans, Cody Bellinger, if you like the way he covers grounds or you like that sweet lefty swing, should I say, I like him. I want to buy a jersey. With the opt-out, kind of how could you do that? And if he keeps playing at this rate, he's going to opt out and he's going to get more guaranteed money. So circle that. If your team is going to have an outfield need, maybe a first base need, maybe both. Cody Bellinger could be back in play for you coming up.
Have you seen what is bold on his baseball reference page for this year?
I have not.
He leads all of baseball in intentional walks.
How about that?
With an IL stint.
A little scared.
Interested.
Little scared.
Just interested.
I think the other two guys that jump off the map, this guy's playing off the map. Anthony Santander from your Baltimore Orioles, those Orioles that have been leading baseball in home runs. He might be the best pure power threat on the team, although Gunnar Henderson may be passing him as just one of the best in baseball. He's going to be hitting free agency at age 30. A guy who's been a consistent switch hitter. The defense is meh, that you might have to plan a corner outfield / DH spot for Anthony Santander. He's been around league average, and it's a tough, man. A 706 OPS, 213, 289. Again, the impact of a contract year, because his 2 seasons before this, he's been a 120 OPS plus, switch hitting, averaging 30 homers a year. There's not a lot of guys you can say that about. That if he plays to his stats the past couple years, he's going to run into a nice little payday, and he's been a guy consistent for the Baltimore Orioles, transitioning from the bad times to the good times. A couple other guys. I mean, like Mark Canha's having a nice year, but he's going to be 36 next year. So that's, excited for him to get maybe a 1 year or a
you can get
a
nice 2 years opt-out deal.
I think the other outfielders as I transition out a little bit, because there's Jesse Winkers, who I'm rooting for Jesse, and hey, Jerkson Profar has been going nut job this year.
And Jesse might end up similar to what Belly had last year. It's like every other year is this, and then there were 2 just bad years that I don't know what he had going on.
Belly might be his best friend for a little bit, because he might get him a little paid if he can keep it up for the year. The 2 names I see jump out, Tyler O'Neill has been going nuts for Boston. That if he can stay healthy the rest of the way, that can turn into a real payday, because he's 28. So if he can go nuts for Boston this year, he can turn in a nice free agent contract. Alex Verdugo with the Yankees, the other guy. Ever since he was traded to the Yankees, he was kind of looked at as the other guy. He's still 27. He turns 28 soon. But again, hitting free agency right and at the right age, that's what matters. He plays strong defense, and he just moved up to the cleanup spot in the Yankee lineup, and he's looked awesome. The guy has always had the contact tool. I think he had to do a little growing up. Maybe he has, or maybe we're hiding it, or maybe it's both. But Alex Verdugo, his stock is going way up for a potential free agency, and obviously rooting for him in a big way with our Yankees. Now, I mentioned the guys that are struggling, and I mentioned those big 3 in the infield: Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, Gleyber Torres. I mentioned Gleyber off the rip. He's shown signs of coming out of it a little bit. It's just very interesting because Gleyber Torres is a hit-first second baseman, which if you're not hitting, you're not a plus defensively, you don't have speed as part of your game, and you're getting paid $14 million this year. Things could get loud for Gleyber pretty quickly if he doesn't figure it out. Because it always seemed like this was going to be the last year with the Yankees. He's got to go a little bit. And for a lot of these guys, I went to their baseball savants, and none of them are pretty. Like, that's just how it works at this point of the year if you haven't gotten off to a good start. But, yeah, I'll tell you, for anyone who's a Yankee fan or not a Yankee fan, it's a scary thing, but, like, let's say this continues. Let's say it's a first-half thing. The Yankees dragged Joey Gallo to the trade deadline as long as they could. If Gleyber doesn't show signs, it becomes a really interesting conversation. Because, I mean, even someone like Oswald Peraza, who's a top prospect for them, he's been hurt this year. If you're looking at it from a money standpoint, whether it's getting off of Gleyber's money and you can have a person that you know has speed and defense if they're not going to hit, or if the Yankees are trying to win a World Series, you might want to swap a piece in and a piece out. So that's a little nervous for Gleyber in a thought exercise I did the other day. The other one that's just wild is Alex Bregman. This whole Astros situation, which 2 weeks ago I told you on this program, subscribe, thank you. Like the Astros need to figure it out. They've been 5-7 since then. They are in last place behind the Angels in the AL West. They just got blown out by the Yanks last night. Justin Verlander. And Bregman is really, really struggling this year. 195, a 260 slug, a 535 OPS. Hey, you can wash this stuff. You can. But also things can get heavy. Things can get heavy quick. And Breggy, I'm not going to doubt him out. He's got a career 850 OPS. He's been 800s the past couple seasons. He does has a couple. Those juice ball years are a little boosted, and that's fine. So are Gleyber's, ironically. But yeah, for him, it's going to be wild to see, what happens with this Houston team in general. Their GM just came out and said, we're not going to sell. But if things continue like this, I bet that tone changes. And for Alex Bregman, if you turn it around, do they have a conversation? Do you want to stay? Do you want to go? You'd like to think a player of his ilk that's had the run they have, they'd consider it because they could still attach a qualifying offer to him and get that kind of reimbursement from it. Interesting to watch. And then my safest one of the three, Pete Alonso. The numbers are kind of funky Pete Alonso-ish. And what I mean by that is he's hitting homers. He's got 9 home runs. Everything else is a tick low across the board. And I guess the thing that is interesting to me is this is what we said last year. Last year, Pete Alonso, 217, 318, but a 504 slug for an 821 OPS. He had 46 homers in a down year. And he got banged up last year, and he tried to come back, and you can see those like in his numbers.
Like especially in like his batting average, because like in his career he hits.
Yeah.
And those specific couple months that he rehabbed and was getting back into it.
I would say Pete is the one I'm the least concerned about because, again, he's out there to hit home runs, and he's still doing that. So I wouldn't be surprised if just more comes around it. And remember, he was rumored for trades this offseason, so interested to see if something like that develops and where could he land. And, again, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Change of scenery for the final 2 months before your free agency. It can either be like beautiful poetry and you just locked up crazy money, or it can be like, ooh, that ending was weird for Pete. I don't know what we should do with that. And you know what kind of sucks when you think about it? These players know that, and they like go to bed with it every night, which I don't know. I would not be great at handling that, but maybe that's just me. The other fun ones that we talked about, we talked a little bit on Talking Baseball. Paul Goldschmidt, he's older now. I mean, he's 36. His upcoming free agency, I think he could become a really fun trade deadline piece. Sorry, Cardinals fans. I know you don't want to hear that. Matt Chapman, he took one of those opt-out contracts. He's been struggling this year. $18 million for next year. Rhys Hoskins, he's been doing Rhys Hoskins things. He's got a $17 million opt-out. That could become interesting. I mean, you almost can't let his current start to the season sway that one way or another. A guy who may be breaking the bank, his teammate, shortstop, Willy Adames. Willy has been balling this year, and go look at what contract shortstops can get. Go look at what contract a shortstop can get if you have a 133 OPS plus, 809 on the year, and you play good defense at short. If Willy Adames keeps this up, he is 28 years old, turns 29 in September. He will get a real deal contract that, again, think of the ebbs and flows of baseball. Let's say Willy has a bad second half. That can happen to literally any baseball player. I mean, he might have the most on the table of any free agent. If he continues at this pace, I mean, easily over $100 million. If he slows down and has a little funk like he did last year, a 95 OPS plus, Willy Adames' free agency gets very different. Very different. So a big part of the Brewers' hot start, slick Willy Adames. Christian Walker's been going for the Snakes. He'll be a free agent. That one's going to be interesting. Let me see if there's others that jump out here. Polanco's got a club option. I mean, there's more. And tell me other guys you're seeing or watching that you think jump out. Like, I think Randy's a free agent, right? I didn't see him listed.
So,
wonder if he's got a funky something that we've been missing. But he's had a tough start to the season. The pitchers are just wild in general. Max Scherzer will be a 40-year-old free agent this year after making $43.3 million. Justin Verlander has a vesting option for this year, which that could be interesting between Houston's antics. He got banged up to start the season. Snell has an opt-out, $31 million the next year. What was that face, Beebs?
Randy's not a free agent for a while.
Yeah? Why do we think it was a contract year? Trev said that at one point. Do we just believe it?
I think next year's his first year of ARB.
Okay. We'll get to the bottom of that.
Second year of ARB, maybe? It looks like free agent 2027.
I'll be honest, the pitchers are kind of a disaster because everyone is either vesting or opting out besides Corbin Burns. Max Fried has turned it around. That guy is going to get paid a lot. I've got one that'll just surprise you, and this is horribly rude. Max Fried older than Corbin Burns.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just have Corbin Burns as this like big mountain man, and Max Fried is like a sweet LA boy. Max Fried, like a little over a half a year older from him. And how about the third shout out of those crew? Giolito, who got hurt right before the season, so he'll be opting into his contract. Jack Flaherty has been shoving for Detroit. We're a little close to the situation there, but his 1 year, $14 million, that could be paying off in a big, big way. Let's see. Yusei Kikuchi is a free agent that's been shoving, and we've been talking about could he potentially be a trade guy. Bullpen just gets ugly real quick, so I won't even dive into that. But I don't know. I thought that was a fun little around the horn, little wrap up to see what's going on. BBD, if you could research one more thing before we keep it moving. Joe's McFly just popped his head around the corner, and I think he mouthed the words Ipe to me. So if you could see if there was an update on that, or if he was just messing with me.
And he's pleading guilty.
Yeah, that adds up. Because you know what he didn't do? Legally sport bet. And you can do that at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today. Use promo code BAKERS. New customers, promo code BAKERS. Bet just $5 on any wager. Get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Whether it's baseball or, God, the NBA playoffs are rolling. We're about to talk about that. It's an electric watch. And, you know, getting in on the action can make it a little more fun. So, again, $5 on anything and $150 in bonus bets. Promo code BAKERS at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Oh, almost just spilled my water.
They're estimating closer to 17 mil.
What's that?
Looks like closer to 17 mil is what he took.
Okay.
Previous number was 16. Faces up to 33 years. All right.
Hey, I said no relievers, but Clay Holmes, if he keeps going, that dude's going to get a contract. My God, he's been nasty this year. I see you, Kenley Jansen.
He'll be required to pay full restitution to his victims, which includes $16.975 million to Ohtani and $1.15 million to the IRS.
What if he does not have that money?
It feels like that money's been gambled, allegedly.
I mean, maybe place a... No, never mind. Let's do some of the other sports. I told you, if you're following hockey, you can speak of it better than me, although the Rangers' double overtime win was a lot of fun, and their power play has been excellent, and the Hurricanes has not, which has been the difference in that series so far. Interested to see if Boston keeps it rolling, because we could get a Boston-New York hockey basketball finals. So I'll talk our New York Knicks a little bit. They get the win in Game 1 over the Pacers. Game 2 is tonight. Brunson is unbelievable. How much of the offense rolls through him is exciting and scary at the same time. 44 minutes, 26 shots, 43 points, 14 of 14 from the free throw line, 6 assists. Him and Josh Hart have just been unbelievable. Unbelievable. Josh Hart, his DraftKings over-under on rebounds, I sent this to our chat. It was 12.5.
Do you know what it is tonight?
He got 13. 13.5. I don't know.
It's 12.5.
12.5. I mean, that's crazy. Josh Hart's 6'4". Josh Hart is 6'4". And that goes without mentioning his 8 assists, his 3 steals, and 24 points. There was times when he felt like the only other option on the court. It's funny looking back at the Knicks stat line now. Anunoby had 13. Hartenstein had 13. And a 3-point shot that changed the game. My God. Where would they have been without that? And DiVincenzo put up 25. 10 for 17 shooting. 5 of 9 from 3. Honestly, I'm a little more nervous for this series than I was. The Knicks bench is missing. Mitchell Robinson gets hurt, so he'll be out for this series and probably the next, right?
If he returns as soon as when he's reevaluated. It would be like Game 6 of the finals.
Game 6 of the NBA Finals, which I don't know. Not a lot of Knicks fans are penciling in, I'll say. So they're going to need someone to step up from the bench, whether that's Precious Achiuwa, Miles McBride. Alec Burks has been shout out. I wonder if they play Jericho Sims. I'd like his body. I don't know about his gameplay. Even for 2 fouls.
I think for this series, it's gonna just be some extra Precious.
And I'm getting scared. Well, the Pacers are the opposite, where they just roll depth at you, and maybe pulling T.J. McConnell out of that game lost them the game. Also, if we're being honest, Knicks got the whistle a little bit, just a little bit down the end. That Game 1 at home that they had to battle back and felt like they were surviving the whole time. Very interested to see tonight's feel. I mean, they're pressuring Brunson full court. They're pressuring everyone full court. And the Knicks, I mean, they just don't have the bodies that... I'm a little more scared for this series, and especially looking back now, the Knicks went 11 of 23 from 3. They got to the free throw line 26 times, although that's a big part of Brunson's game, and he's good at it. 53% from the field. I don't know. I think I'm a little nervous for tonight. I'm interested to see where the line's at. Halliburton, though, he's got to be hurt because the Halliburton everyone was talking about, I don't think he was 6 points, 8 assists, 4 steals. And he hasn't been the same since he's gotten hurt. So that kind of scratches, unfortunately, for them. But where are they going to get the bucket when they need it? And you saw a little bit of that down the stretch. I thought it was... It's so funny, sports broadcasting. You can get your thoughts across without saying anything. And I think Nembhard shot it. There's like 1 minute left, tie game. And I think they let out like a Nembhard's never scared. Or he's not scared. And I don't know, that can go 2 different ways. You make that shot. You're that guy, pal. You miss that shot. Never scared is being like, you probably shouldn't be taking that in the nicest way. I don't know. I think it's lined up to be a really fun series. I'm interested to see if the Knicks either step on the gas pedal and they can break Indiana before their bodies start to get tired because they are thin. Or does Indiana, they have the depth, man. It has me a little concerned. Anything on your Knicks, Beebs?
I think, not much time after this comes out before the game just happens. Yeah. But I think Game 2, the Knicks should be better equipped to handle the pace a little bit. Because, again, I don't think the Mitch injury hurts them this series. He's one of the guys that the pace was killing, I think. And, like, how many inbounds got, messed up in Game 1 that, like, I think Tibbs and the fellas will have that cleaned up today.
Let's get the inbounds in, Pop. That was crazy. Boston, Cleveland, unfortunately, doesn't need to be talked about. OKC-Dallas, we'll see. As I talked about the T-Wolves series, which we'll get to in a second, and felt like road, which has currently passed the test for me. Again, that was 1 game at the time. And kind of a historic game. Let's see what goes on with OKC and Dallas. I honestly did not watch a ton of this game. We were Rangers and Yankees game, went to. So it'll be late night viewing for me. I kind of don't have a horse in the race. It would be funny if the Oklahoma City Thunder, who everyone's just been like, they're young, who won the West, have been pretty dominant. Like the T-Wolves are the new sexy team because they're giving the Nuggets the business right now. It would be funny, whoever comes out of that, looking like the Wolves, if they play OKC and OKC just kind of wins the series in 6 games. Like, their hype train has been nothing.
Like, during the regular season, they were liked and praised for how, like, deep they are. And it's like, yeah, so much young talent and good players and high picks and guys they found later and all that. But in the playoffs... Nobody said anything. They're young.
Anthony Edwards is young.
They'll have to consolidate these things eventually. Haven't.
They might not need to. Let's talk about the good juice because it is, again, a phrase that's not said a lot in sports. And I forget there was a random episode where we were just bumbling around. The T-Wolves are a historically bad franchise. If you go year by year, you know, obviously they had KG, and they had like 1 year. Kevin Love was kind of in the abyss out there for a while when he was like thick, bad facial hair, outlet pass Kevin Love. The T-Wolves, who people were skeptical, a lot of the people I depend on for NBA knowledge, Simmons, Russillo, have killed the Rudy Gobert trade as one of the worst trades of all time, and they're still saying it is value-wise. And Rudy Gobert did not play in this game, potential defensive player of the year. They put on one of the most dominant performances that anyone's ever seen. Because everyone's seen people dominate offensively in the NBA. Like some of those games when guys are just on, it's unreal. Like it gets you glued to it when Curry and Harden are going back and forth Golden State Rockets games or whatever it may be. Like, you've seen that. Like, bring the ball up, get a good look. How good are these guys? Defense, you see it. And NBA basketball in the playoffs is just completely different, it's a good thing for the product. The Timberwolves put on a defensive performance. I jumped to it, and I didn't know if I was being dramatic, and I was happy that some of the kids on Twitter called me old. My Pistons, not the bad boy Pistons. That's like when I was born. So I can't confidently speak on what they looked like day in, day out. Bill Laimbeer pushing people, Rick Mahorn's massive body, Sicko Rodman at a certain point. I don't know. I can't. That's not my lane. I know the follow-up Pistons. Chauncey, Rip, Tayshaun Prince. Big Ben Wallace, obviously. Rasheed. People forget how good Rasheed Wallace was. They were the best defensive team. It was Larry Brown. Like, they were a team of all teams. Like, everyone did everything. There was something to it, though, that, like, they were built kind of how a signature defensive team is built. Like, you got the old mean head coach, check. Big Ben Wallace protecting the rim. Like, go check out his highlights. It was electric. The Fear the Fro. Go watch his NBA 2K commercial with Tracy Morgan. Doesn't apply to this, but just a good watch. And it was a different generation where, like, it was Ben Wallace, like, defending Shaq and all these monster of men. And then they had the lockdown guy, which was Tayshaun Prince. Like, and Tayshaun was fun, man. He was so long. He was just such a nightmare. And, Rip and Chauncey were good, and they'd chase you, and they'd play strong D, and they were the guards. You had the lockdown guy. Rasheed, a sneaky lockdown / great help defender as well. That probably the best defensive team I've seen in my lifetime. What the Wolves did was, for one night, it was more impressive than those teams because everyone was dogging everyone. And they're so long, and they're so tall. And Jaden McDaniels is an absolute problem. And this was game 2 in Denver, right? Like, Denver got punched in the mouth. Defending champs, home court. Let's answer back. Let's give them everything they got. And they just got broken, like, mentally and physically. Cat, who's probably their weakest defender, but he's a massive human, and went 10 of 15 from the field. 3 of 5 from 3, 12 rebounds. He had 2 block shots. McDaniels is just swallows people alive. And if you're in the NBA world, you've heard that talked about all year whenever anyone mentioned the T-Wolves. Anthony Edwards is... Everyone's ruined this word. He's actually him. There's a lot of him people jump to when comparing him. If it continues like this, my God. Mike Conley, which I thought is funny. He's always been solid, and he's just been nice guy of the year, Mike Conley, for the past couple years. But I think him being such a good veteran presence, I love that they talked about how Finch, their head coach, got hurt and like can't run the sideline, so they have the assistant coach. They were like, having Mike Conley is actually massive for them. And I believe that. Mike Conley's played a lot of basketball. He's the point guard. Jaden McDaniels and Ant Edwards will lock down anyone they need to at any time. Cat is massive. Slow-mo Kyle Anderson is mixing it up. And they did all of this. Nikolai Alexander-Walker, he's the other. He will just... These guys swallow you whole. Like, basically, they have 3 Tayshaun Princes. Not exactly, but... and they did all... Naz Reid, 4 blocks. A guy that, when he was coming out of college, people didn't know if he'd have, like, NBA quickness. The whole team is bought in. They have stoppers and size everywhere. It feels like a future NBA team. They did all of this without 7-2 Defensive Player of the Year, him or Wemby, Rudy Gobert. Which, again, you could use that as a knock on Gobert. I don't think you should. I think even if it's, if you trade Gobert's minutes for a couple Nas, couple slow-mo minutes, I still think you get some similar performance. They look awesome. And Game 3, we teed it up last time. I told you, Simmons and Russillo, and this is where Simmons has like a weird scent for this stuff. He was like, the T-Wolves might just floor them and rout them. And it's currently on path for that. That's like the favorite. Going back to Minnesota after the ass-kicking they just gave them.
What we just saw, that should be what you're thinking. Should be.
Nothing felt wrong. Like, Jamal Murray was in hell. Jokic was in hell. Like, there wasn't a solution imminent, and maybe Mike Malone and the boys will draft it up, and we've seen Joker solve every defense he's come against, so maybe that's coming. And I don't know. I think there's something to being a former NBA champion, that they'll have something for Game 3. I might put a little sneeze on them. And I told you my road theory. Every team winning the first 4 road games. I don't believe in that anymore, if I'm being honest, because I didn't think they were going to do that. Like, Ant Edwards didn't even play that great till later in the game. He ends up with a fine box score. The T-Wolves, they really turned some heads, deservedly so, and I mentioned the people who I respect talking about basketball. They also kind of compared them to the Pistons team I talked about. So, might be something special going on in the Great North with a guy who could be next in Anthony Edwards. And it might just all be happening in front of our eyes. So, if you get a chance to watch them, if you're a general sports fan, like, they are must-watch TV. And so is Paul Skenes. And so are all of the sports. And that's what we do here at Wake and Jake. So, I hope you guys are enjoying it. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys Monday. What? Wake and Jake is a production of Dan Patrick Productions, John Boy Media, and Workhouse Media.